Hello. This is actually take two because it's the reason why I quit doing live Facebook live stream videos, because I was turning the camera upside down and sideways and kept telling me to rotate things, and well, the podcasts are working very well, but I did want to do a live Facebook video today for you once again. I'm going to leave the other one up there that I just made that's sideways because the information may not come out the same, and it was important what I had shared. I will try now to re-share and then eventually take off that previous video that's strange, sideways anyway. Okay, this is Reverend Dr. Lena, founder, developer, and owner of Sollite. Sollite is for healing and conscious awakening. I offer private sessions, individually and group-wise, as well as integrative medicine programs. For more information on bridging the gap between medicine and spirituality, and utilizing a holistic medical approach, log on to www.sollite.com. And you can check out all the information there, my biography, testimonials, the whole 6-month practitioner program is totally outlined. And then there's a private sessions page in which you can click and schedule a private appointment with me. Private appointments are in spiritual counseling and energy psychology, but it utilizes the holistic medical model that I teach others. So it's working on your physical, your mental, emotional, psychological, your energetic, your heart and soul level, and then ultimately uniting with your spirit in spiritual medicine. It is a progression of learning experience. It is a journey to go on, and I have gone through this journey myself over and over again, but I also initially, when I was faced with a terminal illness and facing death, I did go to a guide and found a new spiritual teacher that took me through this area myself with him. Later on, after studying with him for several years, I found out he had the same diagnosis and illness as I was going through at that time, and which kind of surprised me because I didn't know that when I first met him. But that's the kind of person you want as a teacher, someone that's been through and that can guide you through the dark night of your soul, the shadow sides of yourself that are wanting to awaken and be healed and come into the light as well. So today I wanted to talk about really pointing out that it is a natural instinct within ourselves to awaken, to evolve, to become conscious of consciousness. And my last podcast on spirituality and illness really talked about working on the soul level and the spiritual journey, and it named about 3 or 4 top world-renowned people in psychology. These names you will know. I urge you to review it because it's a very important podcast. If you don't see it on Facebook, log on to my YouTube channel at Sollite and Lena. I've been doing weekly podcasts and Facebook Live videos occasionally that are all listed on the YouTube channel. And you can look through all the topics and see what interests you to actually review and listen to. I want you to know that these are all medically and scientifically researched podcasts that I'm giving you. They're excerpts from a book that I've been writing for several years on Sollite, Healing and Conscious Awakening. And mostly in the beginning, I've been talking about spirituality in many different forms and avenues. Because what had happened to me from trauma in early childhood was that I had a spiritual disconnect at the moment of a very violent and traumatic experience. And even though it's natural within all of us to become seekers and to become awakened to our divine beingness, the truth of who we really are, when you have something very traumatic happen, especially at a very, very early age, where you haven't really, you're not old enough to actually differentiate or discern the difference between what is separate and what is you and what is whole. So that really affects a person, and then that's why I got into alternative medicine to begin with, because I was seeking to heal myself and to become awakened. And so that was my life's journey, and still is. It's my purpose. It's why I'm here. And right now it's come to the point of sharing it and teaching it to others. So I wanted to bring back in the physical level that as human beings, we have a physical human mechanism inside our brains that creates the illusion of separation, that creates inner conflict and chaos and confusion, and the really not knowing what to do. Do I make a right turn or a left turn? Do I take this medicine, or do I go to an alternative healer? Or, do I want to fall in love with this person I just met? Is that the right guy for me to marry? Usually you know that question, especially if you're walking down the aisle and then you find out later, oh, you know what? I knew then. I hear that from clients all the time. I knew when I was, on my wedding day at the altar that I shouldn't have married this guy. And of course, that's the way it goes. We do know if we listen and pay attention. So back to this human mechanism in the middle of the brain. There's Yorick, my cranial sacral bone demonstration that I work with when I teach. And right here between the eyebrows in the middle, the center of the head, is the area that we're looking at, the cranial fourth ventricle. And that's where the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the insulate live. And that's what puts us in an autonomic nervous system response of fight, flight, or freeze. The amygdala holds all the emotional aspects, especially fear, which triggers the insula, which is the thermometer or thermostat that tells our nervous system, whoops, it's time to go from 0 to 10. And what happens when you're in chronic post-traumatic stress or chronic trauma, you end up on level 10 all the time. You're in constant survival mode. You don't know how to bring that thermostat down. The hippocampus holds all the memories of the traumas, or memories of life in general, our conditioning, our habits, our belief systems. So, this area is very important to work, especially in psychology, or anyone that's in the healthcare profession that wants to work holistically. So I'm taking the top of the head off so I can show you that special place in the middle of the head. So there you are. That's the top of the head. The top of the head is off. And right here is a joint in the middle of the head in cranial work called sphenobasilar joint, or cranial fourth ventricle. But what's important about that is that's where that illusion of separation is held, and what's needed to be worked on in many levels, not just physical, not just psychological, but energetic and soul and spiritual level as well. So I want to briefly just be a little bit more vulnerable and open with you on how I got into this work. Some of you may know that earlier on this year, I co-authored a book. It's called While We Were Silent, Conversations with Deborah Grenard. You can get that on Amazon or Kindle. And what it is a compilation, I know that word, of 12 different experts in trauma who have healed themselves and been on their own healing journey and now are in service to others to help others. And in my portion of the story, like I said, what happened to me, everybody's experience is different, is I had that spiritual disconnect. And which then, that natural instinct for me to want to seek and evolve gets dampered. The lights, the flame gets smaller, the light goes out, it goes on dim. But the urge is always there because it's natural. It was put into us. It's our birthright to awaken. It's our birthright to experience unity instead of illusion of separation. I've had some interesting experiences this last week because I've been working on a teacher of mine that I'm studying with right now, different from the one I spoke to you about earlier. Works on conjoining the opposites. So we get into a meditative state and we don't force anything. You're just aware of, the pendulum that goes back and forth, good, bad, right, wrong, black, white, yes, no, happy, sad, all those things. So when they come up, just naturally, don't force it, because if you're trying to force it, it's just not going to happen. But when you're intending, when you go into your spiritual practice, whatever it is, meditative state, prayerful state, contemplative state, then something usually does arise. It took me a while, but I had a very profound experience of what we call conjoining the opposites. Having both of them there at the same time and being present with them at the same time. I talked about this earlier in a different podcast, where what happens is a third energy is created, something other than opposite. 1, 2, a third energy is created. Now, I don't want to share my own experience with conjoining the opposites with you because everybody's experience is going to be different. So I don't want to project to you or any kind of expectation of, oh, she said it was going to be that way or her experience was that way. I don't want to flavor that because everybody's journey, although the same, is different. So those are two important aspects. The mechanism in the brain that's physical creates separation, and it is a natural instinct to awaken. Consciousness wants to be aware of itself. And it's as a human being experiencing the human experience that is our privilege to be able to assist consciousness or source, creator, God, whatever you want to call it, to awaken to itself. Which then, of course, you have the wonderful aspect of having the outcome of that beautiful experience yourself and in your life. It is transformative. So back to working to heal myself from trauma, chronic post-traumatic stress as life goes on. I did end up having actually several near-death experiences. But I do remember one where I was in the doctor's office and they gave me 40% chance to survive or live from a diagnosis. Now, at that moment in time, I remember, it was long ago, but I do remember, walking out there hysterical and crying and, oh my Lord, I'm going to die. And I felt I wasn't ready to die. I was too young to die. I didn't want to meet my maker. I wasn't ready, whatever that means. And there was a lot of fear about that for me anyway. Now, as I look back at it, 40% was a huge percentage. I didn't see it at the time, but it was a huge percentage. And what also simultaneously happened at that time is I met another spiritual guide. I've had many teachers, this one very elevated and profound. And I found out after years of studying with him that he had survived that same illness that I was diagnosed with. Didn't know that at the time. So I bring this point out because my guide guided me through a journey of healing and awakening, a transformative process. And I point that out to you because if you're in the healthcare profession and you're interested in studying with me to become a practitioner, I am your guide and I take you on that journey just like my guide took me on my journey. So you may be wanting to enroll in the program because you want to help your clientele, your family, a personal friend. Maybe you want to broaden your scope of private practice and bring more income in, or just feel more fulfilled by bringing in that aspect of spirituality into your counseling. And maybe you don't do the physical or the energetic or even on the soul level. There might be pieces that you're missing and you just want to have that holistic medical model approach. So I point out again that the last podcast I did, Spirituality and Illness, there were 3 or 4 world-renowned people in psychology that you're going to know who they are when you listen to it. And one of them I'm going to point out, they all talked about working on the soul and spiritual level and how important that was for wellness and healing, and the importance that it plays in illness. But Carl Jung, and I quoted it from the research materials, said that he never takes anyone through an experience that he himself has not experienced, which is the same thing. He's not going to take somebody on a journey into the unknown, into the depths of the dark night of the soul or the shadow parts of ourselves, which he did a lot of with the archetypes, etc. And he worked on himself before he brought it out and worked on other people. So that's the benefit of actually, when you choose a teacher that you want to study with, if it's not me, to remember that fact. Remember you want to study with somebody that's been through it, that has the compassion, has the experience, has the knowledge, and can share that with you and can help you through yours too. Whether you're suffering with the illness or not, we always can evolve to a higher level of consciousness, an awakened state. It's an infinite world of possibilities, that unified field. Anyway, so facing death, as I've heard from other spiritual teachers that I've studied with throughout my life, is that it's one of the important doorways that can open for transformative experiences, for evolution, for awakening, for just raising to another level of consciousness. It doesn't have to be a terminal illness. It can just be, an illness, any kind of illness that's not, that big of a deal, but, they're doorways. But facing the death is like the pivotal one in quotes. That's a doorway that's gonna be glaring you in the face and saying, walk through, do not fear, walk through. And some people in the psychological field, they don't look at it as a spiritual emergence or a spiritual crisis or a doorway for transformation to occur. They look at it through the old paradigm of diagnosis and and whatever their knowledge is to help you deal with it on an emotional and psychological state. But really, if you look at the world today, not only if you're facing an illness or maybe you lost your job, maybe you're getting divorced, maybe you just lost a child. I mean, all kinds of things happen. That's what life is like. It's a roller coaster. It's filled with ups and downs and sideways turns, and it's not really meant to be this even keel all the time. But of course, positive psychology, rewiring the brain, affirmations, all these things that we do, the happiness movement is good for us. It does help us have more peace in our lives. But we still have to face the difficulties and challenges that come with living life. So in this world, as you can see out there, it's pretty chaotic right now. And it's been chaotic like this throughout history in the past too. If you're an historian, it's really nothing new, something repeating itself. But it is, can be a challenging time for those that don't really have that inner knowing and that inner GPS that they can follow the truth within themselves. And that's really the key that you want to share with your clients, that you want to have for yourself. Just, even in the mere fact is I was on a trip a month ago or so, and I was in the mountains in Georgia and had no GPS. And so I got lost. And I got lost for 5 hours. I should have been wherever I should have been 5 hours ago. And even with all my tools in my toolbox, I had my, amygdala go into fear and panic and, just, out in the country, just not knowing where to go and what to do. Eventually, though, through that, what I call the spiritual crisis, when we're in chaos and confusion, underlying all that is this doorway, openness of transformation. It's like a miracle opening. There came a point in time that I don't even know. It was just this really strong inner voice or feeling or all at the same time that happened that said, turn here, turn here, turn here, and turn here. And finally, I got on the right road with no GPS, no technology. And but I went through a few little stages of inner emergency before that happened. And so that's really the importance of taking this journey with me. If you're interested in enrolling in the program, check out the website, and if you're interested in enrolling, there is a complimentary free discovery call where we can talk about whether it's the right fit for you and what your needs are. You can just schedule that. And only if you're really interested in committing to doing this journey with me, if it's calling to you for whatever reason. There is a section on the website, like I said, that's just for private sessions, where you can just schedule a private session with me, and that's going to be conducted much like a psychotherapy session, but it also then has the energetic, physical, and emotional and spiritual work included, and then we come together and we summarize and have questions and answers of what occurred while we were in our healing time together. Anyway, I forgot what I said in the previous live Facebook video that's sideways. I hope I pretty much included it this second time around, and I hope that this second time around it's straight, because I'm not doing it again. Firmly not going to do it again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this vulnerable exposure and conversation with you today. Again, check out the YouTube channel, Sollite and Helena. Pick out any topic you'd like to explore. They're not that long, but they are excerpts from a book that will be coming out soon. So I only chose the choicest of portions of that to share with you. And I will continue to do those podcasts as well with topics that you'll see. I post them on Facebook, I post them on Twitter and LinkedIn, and then they're stored on the YouTube channel. So this is Reverend Dr. Helena signing out for today. Have a wonderful, beautiful rest of the weekend, a glorious evening, and may you be blessed and happy and abundant with all your heart's desires being fulfilled. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.